Welcome on into the Between the Hash Marks podcast. As always, I'm Matt Lombardo, joined by my friend, colleague, mentor, and the purveyor of Mike Tanier's Two Deep Zone, Mike Tanier, on a day where not much has happened across the NFL, except for the New York Jets firing Robert Saleh moments before we went on the air.
We're at the epicenter of a Jets catastrophe. The latest Jets catastrophe. I couldn't quite say that right. But we're still kind of reacting to it. Like, we're still trying to get our brains around it. And I can't just simply get past the, holy crap, Aaron Rodgers can do whatever the hell he wants, can he?
Yeah, that really feels like that was an impetus to this going down. We're going to get into all of that. We're going to chat with a Hall of Famer. LeRoy Butler will join us a little bit later on in the podcast to talk about an insurgent Packers defense, where Green Bay goes from here, their ceiling, Jordan Love, and a whole lot more. And just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started here. If you enjoyed the podcast, please go ahead and subscribe in the Apple Podcast Store, Spotify. You can check out my YouTube channel at Matt Lombardo 975. But if you're an Apple Podcast, leave us those 5-star ratings and reviews. They help grow the show. They make us easier to find in the algorithm. And of course, if you leave a review, whether you love the podcast or you want to trash it, we will read the review at the end of each podcast if you leave us 5 stars.
If it's a 5-star, you can do. This is not your first podcast, people. Other people do this. They leave a 5-star review and tell us we suck. And like Pavlov's dogs, we will just start salivating over the 5-star review and read off anything you say about us. Short of accusing us of major crimes.
Right. Well, I don't know if it would qualify as a major crime, but it sure seems like Aaron Rodgers pulled the rug out from underneath Robert Saleh. And of course, the 3-interception performance Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings seemed to seal Robert Saleh's fate. And I didn't report this, in the column on Monday.
Because Saleh threw those 3 interceptions.
Correct.
He should have ordered Aaron Rodgers to throw those interceptions. I love the mindset we're in right now. Didn't mean to interrupt you here, but the mindset we're in, Aaron Rodgers' 3 interceptions sealed the fate of his head coach.
Yeah, and it's just one of these situations where the Jets are all in on Aaron Rodgers, and they've decided to throw themselves further all in after what's been a really inconsistent start. And I didn't report this in the column on Monday, but I, reached out to a source on Sunday during the game, because that first half by the Jets was one of the worst first halves of offensive football that I've seen in a very long time. When you wind up targeting Garrett Wilson 22 times, any of receivers 22 times in a game, that's as disjointed as it gets, and it's hard to win that way in the NFL. But I said, listen, how hot does Robert Saleh's seat get if they don't turn this around and win this game? And he told me, quote, "It becomes a flaming inferno. He was on the top of my list to be fired before the season," unquote. And here we are about 50 hours later, and Robert Saleh is the first coach to be fired around the league.
It's gross. It's gross because we're not pretending that this is anything other than Mad Emperor Aaron Rodgers banging his shoe on the ground or whatever and saying, "I want the coach out of here because he questioned me last week in public when they had that, dust up about whether it was the cadence or not the cadence, or simply because I don't like anyone challenging me at this point." We're not pretending. We didn't wait a week until Rodgers had a good game or had a game where you could point to it and say, well, clearly it wasn't Rodgers' fault. We did this after a game that was Aaron Rodgers' fault. And if it's not Aaron Rodgers' fault, it's Nathaniel Hackett's fault. And Nathaniel Hackett is a sock puppet on the hand of Aaron Rodgers. So you can't blame Hackett without blaming Rodgers. So they go after the one guy who is not in the inner circle, and they just get rid of him. By the way, what do you think Joe Douglas is doing right now to get Davante Adams?
Yeah, I think he's doing everything that he can. I think that if you're the Jets, you have a very limited window around what looks to be a very limited quarterback in Aaron Rodgers based on what we're seeing right now. And again, it feels like they are going all in and doubling down on Aaron Rodgers. But at this point, Mike, even going and getting Davante Adams feels like you're doubling down and going all in on going 9-8. That's what it feels like this team is right now.
Forget what's good for the Jets. Think of what's good for Joe Douglas. If Davante Adams gets traded to the Detroit Lions, he gets fired the next day.
Yes.
He'll get fired. Aaron Rodgers will have him fired. Joe, if you're watching, you're not watching. Aaron Rodgers will have you fired if you don't get Davante Adams. That is where you're at right now. That is like the sick level of this quarterback has power over this team. that we are at right now with it. And I don't think that would do any good, because I don't think anything's going to do any good. It's no longer about doing good. It's simply about appeasing Aaron Rodgers.
It's about appeasing Aaron Rodgers. And as an agent who has multiple clients on the Jets roster texted me this morning before we went on the air, quote, imagine watching that interception at the end of that game and listening to Aaron Rodgers thinking he knows what's best for the Jets, unquote. That to me, the Jets offense is disjointed. The Jets offense, the problems are Aaron Rodgers is past his prime, significantly so. Nathaniel Hackett's scheme is not working. And what I saw when Aaron Rodgers threw his hands up in the air like this, blaming Mike Williams for an interception that he threw, it was the ultimate act of showing up what has potential to be a Hall of Fame wide receiver sometime down the future based on his production, because you threw a terrible pass with the game on the line during a terrible game for you. And it just feels like the Jets are doing everything they can to be mediocre. I said it in the preseason and you laughed, Mike, that the Jets are no closer with Aaron Rodgers than they were last year without him. I'm not sure that they're any closer today than they were last year to being relevant.
You okay back there?
Yeah,
okay,
the microphone is okay. It's
okay.
fine.
And I'm just going to let the Mike Williams Hall of Fame, I'm just going to let that float into the ether. And we're going to go back to what you were saying, which is he's showing up, guys. Hackett's offense is what Rodgers wants.
Yeah.
There's no, whatever Hackett's offense is, I have no idea what I saw in Denver. I've already erased it from my memory. It's what do you want? So that is another extension of Aaron Rodgers' desire. You go to the sidelines after the game, and what do you see? You see Hackett giving a pep talk to Aaron Rodgers. It is absolutely silly. But to your point about, like, are they any better? Folks have put the statistics out, and it's not like DVOA or anything like that. They've scored as many points through 5 games this year as they did last year with Zach Wilson. And I don't remember if Zach Wilson had already given way to somebody. I think he was playing okay for a couple of weeks. That's exactly where they are right now. And it's, again, it's not about fixing it anymore. This is about Rodgers in his mind thinks the way to fix this is to let me be more like me. And there's now no check or balances on him in that entire organization, except for the owner, who's out there somewhere, like, dreaming of being able to go back to his ambassador role.
Right. And it's foolhardy to go all in on Aaron Rodgers at this stage of his career, but that's what they've done. They've handed the keys to the franchise to Aaron Rodgers. And to me, firing Robert Saleh, it was probably inevitable anyway, because if you talk to people around the league, he was on the hot seat at the end of last year, despite that defense playing well, that Aaron Rodgers coming back and healthy bought him time. But now that you've seen what Aaron Rodgers is, now that you've seen the limitations of Aaron Rodgers, now that you've seen how disjointed this offense is with or without Rodgers, with or without Breece Hall was supposed to be the next great running back in this league, been bottled up, even with Breland Allen there as the secondary complementary piece in that backfield. There's no momentum with that Jets offense. There's no identity to that Jets offense right now. This is a half measure firing Robert Saleh. It would have probably come at season's end anyway. I just don't see any way that they become a playoff contender on this trajectory this year.
They don't. They absolutely don't. They don't. They don't. They just showed all their cards. They just showed all their cards. So this is it. This is who the Jets are. And that's it. Like we were joking off air. It's like, I want to write a column off of this. It's hard to get a new take on it, because this is all the stuff. If you wrote, I think I did it. Like, here's a future history of the Aaron Rodgers situation. And I think I wrote all these things into it. I'm afraid I used it on the Messenger or someplace like that.
It was your first column over there. I remember reading it and thinking that you're going to come out of this as a soothsayer.
Oh my God, I got to go find it. I think I have it on, it's not on the internet, but I think I have it on my hard drive, because fighting with the head coach was in there, and blaming other people was in there. The only thing that wasn't in there was an Achilles injury.
Yes, 4 snaps into his career in New York.
So if we all knew this last April, what is there to say about it now?
For sure. But the Jets aren't the only team in trouble. The Jets aren't the only team not living up to lofty expectations, because if you look about 2,000 miles westward to the reigning NFC champion 49ers, there are bad vibes permeating through that locker room right now. There is concern about an offense that's underachieving. There are concerns about a defense that's letting teams like the Arizona Cardinals off the hook. There are real concerns that this team might not live up to the hype of returning to a Super Bowl. Just very unique and interesting characteristics for a 49ers team.
You talk about the vibes. It's funny because, and I think I sent you the link. I think Mike Silver wrote a column in the Chronicle about the bad vibes, and he quoted, I think, a Matt Marciano chronicle, I think at their CBS affiliate, about the bad vibes, who quoted one of the beat writers writing about the bad vibes. They keep talking about vibes. San Francisco people, they're into their vibes, and we're based in Philly. The vibes around the Eagles can actually have birds die and fall out of the sky. The,
Right.
the vibes here can kill pigeons. Okay. So like I get that there are bad vibes. What's weird about it is that like we can talk about our bad vibes and then you can talk in the Eagles sense about a defense that's 30th or you can get a statistic or another statistic. 49ers, it's just everything is off. Everything is wrong. And I could go into each individual game and say, well, they lost because of this and because of this. And they feel like there's something missing along the way. And whether it's Kyle Shanahan's decision-making in these high leverage situations, I think that's part of it. It's the feeling that the invincibility that they had last year and the year before that has just kind of evaporated. Whether guys like Ayuk tune the coaches out a little bit and Debo is always out on Planet Debo, something there is making them so suboptimal right now that they're vulnerable every single week.
Yeah, I have a theory, and it's kind of two-parted here in terms of what's happening in San Francisco right now. The first is they were built as a well-oiled precision machine. This wasn't a NASCAR car that can
those Indy cars that they don't start, like they're trying to start the race and it stops. Yeah, like one of those.
Yeah, this is an F1 car where every piece of every computer chip has its function. Every piston in the engine has a certain amount of horsepower that needs to fire it just the right way. This is a team without Christian McCaffrey through the entire season to date. This is a team that's been missing Deebo Samuel for a handful of games. This is a team where you were trying to work in Trent Williams after he was away for the entire training camp and preseason. The pieces haven't been in place going into this year at all yet. And certainly there have been some, chances where you've had Ayuk, some games where he wasn't necessarily at his best. Debo's been in, Debo's been out. I think that's one of the reasons why things aren't great, because if you think back to even last year, the games when Trent Williams was injured, they were not the same offense. The games when Christian McCaffrey was dealing with his injuries, they were not the same team.
I'm calling timeout. Everybody, every podcast, Aaron's podcast, yours, Jared Bailey, the radio shows, I do this. I'm sick of hearing about 49ers injuries. They're not injured. Okay, so Debo missed one game. Okay. As for Christian McCaffrey, oh my God, they don't have Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is not the only injured player in the NFL world, okay? I was watching a Dallas Cowboys game the other night. Dallas Cowboys are without Micah. Dallas Cowboys without Tank Lawrence. Their backup got hurt, Nealon, the rookie. They were without Brandon Cooks. I think they were missing one or two guys in the offensive line. They go out there, manufacture a win. There's almost no talk about the Dallas Cowboys injury situation. When we talk about the Dallas Cowboys, we talk about Jera, or we talk about Dak, or we talk about the team. Eagles, we know about the vibes. We know all the injuries here in Philly. San Francisco, Christian McCaffrey is one injured human playing the least important position on the field in the modern NFL. And every time we talk about the shit that's wrong with the 49ers, pardon my French, is, well, Christian McCaffrey, he was injured for him. No, it's not that. There is a underlying problem with this team that's not that they need to get their one injured person back in a league where every other team has 10 injuries.
I'm glad you went there, because the second part of this is they've played, to borrow your term, the 49ers have played a shitload of football over the last 3 years, right? Because you look at last year, you went to and lost to a Super Bowl. There's the baked in Super Bowl hangover. You saw what happened with the Eagles a year ago, where it just went off the rails and they collapsed from being 10-2. You look at the fact that they went to the NFC Championship game the year before. There's a certain wear and tear to going that deep into the playoffs this many times with an older roster. Let's be clear. This is not the Green Bay Packers. This is not the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is not one of the younger teams across the NFL. This is not a team that's built on the foundation of multiple first-round draft picks at all of the skill positions. There are a lot of marquee free agent signings here. There are a lot of guys that have developed beyond their pre-draft situation, scouting reports, and expectations. But when you play that much football and you don't get it done, There's a physical wear and tear, there's an emotional toll, and there's a psychological creep that comes in. How much do we listen to these coaches? How much do we buy into this third defensive coordinator in as many years? How do we not have continuity? The injuries don't help. The injuries are the foundation of the problems, but the house is cracking and crumbling because they've gotten to the mountaintop and they haven't reached the summit to plant the flag.
And there's the vibes, and it's that emotional on that tune-out factor. And you mentioned the defensive coordinators. They're not a very good run defense this year. That has impacted them. But I think there's a tune-out on Kyle Shanahan. Again, they went to the Super Bowl, had a setback year, went to the championship game, went to the Super Bowl, had a setback year. There's got to be a level of tune-out at some point where you haven't quite gotten it done, where you haven't had that catharsis of actually winning. And when you see a game like the Cardinals game where they settle for an early field goal, like a 28-yard field goal early in the game. And you could probably like, why didn't we punch it in there? Why are we being conservative? Then their kicker gets hurt. Yeah. And then it's cuckoo bananas time every time they get into the red zone. Like you could actually see sweat coming out of Kyle Shanahan's ears when they got into the red zone. And
they're 1 for 6 in the red zone against Jonathan Gannon's Cardinals.
They don't have a plan. Their kicker's hurt. The punter kicked a short field goal. So I look at that and say, well, then maybe if you can get to the 10-yard line, let your punter kick the field goal, or do this thing where like, okay, we're going to play power ball and get the ball short. They just go banana pants. They're just like, you know, and they throw a panic. So you lose another game like that. And I think those are the things. Eagles fans have seen teams with a Eagles Super Bowl hangover. We've seen that a couple of times. It's probably something what the 49ers have right now. And it has just eroded that difference between them and the other teams in the conference.
For sure. And I don't want to get into a whole Kansas City Chiefs rabbit hole here, but that's a team that overcomes a lot of adversity. They're overcoming right now Travis Kelce taking 4 games to get up to speed. They're overcoming being without Hollywood Brown for the entire year. They're overcoming losing Rashee Rice, losing Isaiah Pacheco, bringing in Kareem Hunt off the street, and he becomes what you would think that Ezekiel Elliott was going to be for the Dallas Cowboys and wound up not being. But they're still chugging along, manufacturing victories. Now they have 15, and 15 is going to put you in a lot of games and give you a position to be the favorite every time you step on the field, and Mahomes is going to find ways to beat you. But they have Andy Reid. They have Steve Spagnuolo. They have coaches who they have won rings with. They've had coaches who are going to go into the Hall of Fame because of what they've done in the biggest moments. And to your point, the tuning out Kyle Shanahan, I don't know that that's happening, but it's certainly a lot easier to fall back on your preparation, your good habits, and believing in your culture when Andy Reid is your head coach and you have 3 Super Bowl rings on your finger than it is for a head coach who's been there twice, hasn't gotten it done, and come up short a handful of other times.
Right. When the institutional memory there is kind of like, well, here we go again. And that's kind of where you're at with the 49ers.
Yeah, and I can say the same.
Here we go again, but here we go again.
Here we go again. I wonder if we're going to start to see some of the same feelings and vibes and concerns play out in Pittsburgh, because Mike Tomlin has the reputation. He never goes less than 500. They always seem to make the playoffs by hook or by crook. They have an elite defense. But that loss to the Dallas Cowboys, the way they lost it, the way that they collapsed, the way that Justin Fields couldn't get anything going in the fourth quarter, and we'll touch on George. Oh, believe me, we'll touch on George Pickens and what's going on there. That team feels like it's on the precipice of a major calamity in the Steel City.
They felt that way since 2019. I think Tomlin likes it that way. This feels like the same Steelers season we always have. Okay, the quarterback is not very good, and people are trying to sort of pump up the quarterback. They scored 3 points at halftime this week. The previous week, I think they scored 3 points or 10 points at halftime. This is common. And then in the fourth quarter, they go out there and try to do the thing. I think we're going to get into Pickens right now.
Yeah.
Pickens is the next Juju Smith-Schuster, who was the next Chase Claypool, who was the next. There was somebody else in there I'm missing. And then I swear Antonio Brown buried a painted helmet somewhere in Latrobe, and it like emanates this wacky sauce that turns these wide receivers into that guy. But everything about this is the same, right down to the fact that they're still over 500. They can still win games with their defense. And there's another drama about A, is the quarterback worthy, and B, is the wide receiver on Planet Prima Donna.
Yeah, I think that the wide receiver lives on planet prima donna. You look at what happened on Sunday night, and I've seen some posts on threads about this where people have clipped out his routes.
Yeah.
George Pickens was running about half speed for almost all of his routes. And then Mike Tomlin comes out after the game and says that they were managing his reps and trying not to,
Yeah.
overwork him and things like that.
Oh,
It makes no sense to me. When a guy's not busting full effort against a patchwork defense in a primetime game where you have the chance to take another step towards winning the AFC North,
yeah.
and you decide not to try.
That's a load management game. It's week 5. The dude's 24. Travis Kelce's going out there and playing 650 snaps a week, but we have to load manage George Pickens. And yeah, I did watch some of those. And like, I tried to actually gauge, because sometimes like there are some routes that a receiver is supposed to run at 3/4 speed or something like that. That was 3/4 of 3/4 speed
Yes.
on some of those. And they were plays where it looked like, no, you're clearing an over route. That's an over route. You do not run that at like a lower speed to clear out space for somebody else. And I think what we're talking about is the one where Fields throws what looks like an errant pass at the sideline. No, that's where the ball goes if Pickens runs through his route.
And the problem here is George Pickens has the talent to be a top tier wide receiver in the NFL. He has the skill set, he has the tools, he has everything you would want to build your receiving core around. Yeah. But if you're going to walk around and grouse in that locker room, if you're going to step on the field and not give max effort, if you're not even going to try to get on the same page as your starting quarterback, I'm sorry, Mike, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, there are only 2 ways out of this. You suspend him to send a message, conduct detrimental, and you try to nip it in the bud and rebuild and build the relationship back up and basically say one more of these things and you're gone. But I think the more corrective course of action here, they're going to have to trade him. And you look at the Steelers offense right now, it is not living up to what it needs to be to play complementary football to a championship caliber defense, because that's what it is. If you watch that game and you watch what TJ Watt does on every single play, when you watch the impact that Hayward makes, when you look what Joey Porter Jr. does on the back end with the interception that should have kept them in the game and given them the chance to win the game on Sunday, the offense isn't living up to that standard, which is shocking because of how good the defense is.
Yeah.
If I'm Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin, here's what I'm doing. I am calling the Las Vegas Raiders today. And I am offering them a 2nd-round pick, and I'm offering them George Pickens for Devontae Adams, and I'm hoping to get a 3rd-round pick back because I sweetened the pot with Pickens. But you cannot move forward with a guy who doesn't want to be there at a position that has become a premium position in the NFL and vital to winning in this league.
You're overpaying to get rid of him by what you just described there. You are overpaying to get rid of him. You might still have the phone hung up in your face. I agree. And the thing is, I would go to Steelers camps and things and watch them practice during the height of the Antonio Brown era. They're probably not going to trade him or suspend him. They're just going to keep going.
Yeah.
Going to keep going. And then it'll simmers down in this weird way where they end up 9-8, but that's what they've been doing for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And before
17 years, the Mike Tomlin era, that's what they've been doing.
Yeah, but they were
500.
But there were championships, and they were during the Roethlisberger. Well, there was a championship in there. Okay, all right. And for the last several years, when it was obvious that they weren't that team anymore, they were doing that. Is it time to change quarterbacks?
See, I've heard that, and again, people will rip me on threads at Matt Lombardo NFL, and I've been kind of putting the body armor up a little bit this week. I'm not making the switch because listen, I have a 25-year-old former 1st-round pick in Justin Fields in his 1st year in Arthur Smith's offense. You and I both agree that Arthur Smith isn't going to win you any Assistant Coach of the Year awards. Right. But he seems to be tailoring an offense around what they do well, which is running the football, utilizing the tight end, letting the quarterback be mobile, trying to build something. I just don't know. There's nothing that I've seen from Russell Wilson a year ago in Denver. What am I going to hitch my wagon to? The accuracy issues, missing KJ Hamler wide open in the back of the end zone when you could win the game against the Colts in prime time. What am I missing where you can look at Russell Wilson and say that 117 years old, he is going to be better this year and beyond than Justin Fields is? I just don't see how you're going to spark an offense that way.
Nor do I see him like clicking with Pickens in a way that Fields can't.
No.
Now you've got another. Now you got a quarterback controversy, and you add like this other variable to the drama there. But I tend to agree. I'm not a super Fields fan, but like, yeah, he's managing these games well. If we're doing this power running type of thing and getting distributing the ball short, you might as well let his legs be one of the factors there. And just not stir the pot. It's not like you have a rookie or something special back there. You've got the husk of Russell Wilson.
Right, and Russell Wilson at this point in his career is not going to give you that same mobility, especially coming off the injury of a year ago. Look, they need weapons. And that's why I would be, we touched on the Jets and how important it would be for them to go and get Davante Adams. I'll even make a case that San Francisco 49ers should look to add Davante Adams to spark them and turn things around. But if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you were all in on trying to get Brandon Ayuk, and you were working the phones all summer long trying to get a wide receiver, go get Davante Adams. Go get a weapon that you can put on the perimeter because nobody's running away with the AFC North. You're in the mix. You're 3-2. Your quarterback is a guy right now who is 961 yards, 5 touchdowns, just 1 interception. The turnovers were the big concern for Justin Fields in Chicago.
He's been
cut
fumbling
those down.
No, he's fumbling still, so there is like an issue there. But yeah, the interceptions are down. He's not just throwing gopher balls.
Go get him a weapon and go get him a weapon at receiver. Turn the page from George Pickens. I think that they need to we talked about the Chiefs needing to make a bold move. I'm not so sure they need to, the Chiefs right now. Pittsburgh, they need to do something bold to fix the offense, but Russell Wilson is not that fix.
Davante Adams is going to be so tired playing for 6 teams in November. Very, very tired, busy fellow.
He sure is. And, I'm tired of talking about doom and gloom and terrible teams. The Green Bay Packers had a great win this week, and it was a win in comeback fashion. I don't know about you, but watching that game, it felt like they checked the box towards playing complementary football, and it felt like that Jordan Love took a bit of a step, even though they're playing a mash unit in the Los Angeles Rams, took a step in his development too.
Yeah, he overcame some big mistakes to make some big plays when he had to. They also got great play from their defense, particularly Xavier McKinney.
Mike, I'm pretty fired up about our next guest. He's wearing a gold jacket, and what a timely situation and time to bring him on the podcast after what the Packers did on Sunday, after what we're seeing from that defense. Hall of Fame, former Green Bay Packers safety, LeRoy Butler joins us. You can follow him on threads at Leap3636. LeRoy, how you doing, man? Thanks for taking the time today.
Every day of vacation. I'm dead serious. From where I came from growing up, every day is great. We were talking about this before we were recording, me you and Mike, about I'm from Florida and we've got a hurricane coming through. So we just want to say to everybody, even the last hurricane, North Carolina, Atlanta, Florida, these places, we're praying for everybody to get what they need. And I think they will, because neighbors and Americans around, they all been helping out. So my family so far has been fantastic. So, because I know sports is a way for people to really, that's the therapist that you need, especially when your team wins.
And did I see you have a fundraiser coming up for homelessness?
Mike, that's why you're the smartest guy in the world. Yes, changing homelessness is something near and dear to my heart, is because I know people who paycheck to paycheck, if that paycheck don't come in, you could be homeless. Yeah. And sometimes I think people think it's the people that you drive down the road and you see people homeless, but it's not. It's other families who living in a car who are doing things like that. So I've been working with changing homelessness in Florida for about 2 years. Okay. And I sent a certified letter to all the top sports, NBA, NFL, hockey, baseball, WNBA, saying that I need their help because sooner or later it's going to be illegal in the state of Florida if you're homeless. But what if you're a veteran, right, and you need help? You're going to put people in jail? So changing homelessness, try to get them jobs, housing, food. Because I'm from the inner city, single parent. My mom raised 5 kids by herself, and she was my hero. But when you're growing up in extreme poverty,
Mm.
yes, people look at you differently. But that's why my documentary and my life story is going to be amazing because I'm working on it now. But I appreciate you asking because I just want people to just, in these hurricanes, people never say, well, where did the homeless people go? Where, I mean, the shelters, I mean, it's just,
The hurricane could leave people homeless. It's going to take some homes off of the map, unfortunately.
yes. And it happens. Some people in North Carolina don't, their house is gone.
Right.
And where do you go? And even the federal government, more than happy to help you, and even the private sector will help you, and people volunteering help you. And this is a good way to end this segment of it. But my grandmother, Matt and Mike, told me this:
Mm-hmm.
a real hero does not fly. He can't outrun a locomotive. He can't pick up cars and throw it. He's not in the Marvel magazine or DC. A hero is helping somebody you don't know. So
Beautiful.
if you ever want to feel like a hero, if you're in line buying something and somebody behind you, just pay for their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You don't know them. You if you see somebody out and you want to help them, look at the smile on their face and look at the smile at yours. That's a hero. So anytime you volunteer, to me, my grandmother and my mother say that's a real hero. So that's how I've always tried to do that.
LeRoy, you're doing heroic work with what you're doing to change homelessness. How can people find out more? How can people get involved?
Yeah, just go to changinghomelessness.org and all of it's there. And even if you don't live in Florida, all 50 states, they all have these agencies who need help. Because I know the bigger ones are like Give to the Red Cross, which does amazing work. Salvation Army, my first new shirt, do I popped the tag and it was mine? Salvation Army. Because I didn't have a shirt to wear for school pictures.
Oh,
Because
wow.
everybody wears something new in your school pictures. And I told my teacher, I said, I wear hand-me-downs. So when you see my picture, my brother's picture, who was a grade ahead of me, you're gonna see me with the same shirt.
Mm.
And and she was like, well, it's okay, it's okay. I said, yeah, but it'd be nice to have my own shirt. So the following year, went to Salvation Army. All the kids are running over trying to get the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip. Yeah, Matt, you're too young for that.
You know,
I
I know,
remember
I
G.I.
know.
Joe.
I said, I don't want a toy.
Mm.
I want that new shirt, just a white t-shirt.
Mm.
And it's in my book. And Matt, I'll send you a picture of it.
Love it.
Me in my shirt, and you can see the biggest smile. Just little stuff like that can help anybody's mental health or anxiety. So it's just if everybody could do something, it would be less for the less fortunate. Because I used to be one of these people that pray every day some stranger give money to a food pantry so I could eat it. And my grandkids were asking me, my grandson, he said, G-Pa, have you ever went trick-or-treating? I no. What? I said, no, I'm from the project, the inner city.
Yeah.
I've never had a costume to go get candy. No, I just went to grandma's house and grandma was giving us the candy.
Oh.
We didn't have a costume on.
Mhm.
And you should saw his face. It's like, wow. Because young kids don't really know where we grew up and all this
That's
stuff.
right.
But
That's right.
yes, but it's amazing though.
And we're going to include a link to changinghomelessness.org in the episode description, in the story from the podcast, and all those great things to do our small part to raise awareness for your great work that you're doing out there in the community. And obviously, it feels trivial given what people are dealing with in the South and the Southeast portion of this country right now. But, a lot of people can turn to football, turn to sports as that welcome distraction from things. And obviously, you have a gold jacket now. Congratulations on that, first and foremost. You're one of the greatest players to ever play the safety position in the league. The Packers seem to have a pretty good one in Xavier McKinney, who they signed as a free agent this offseason from the New York Giants. Talk to me about what you're seeing from Xavier. What is clicking for him? He's the first player since the AFL-NFL merger to have 5 interceptions in his first 5 games with a new team. He seems to fit the mold of the Jeff Hafley defense perfectly to a T, and he's playing the best football of his career. As someone who's played that position at the highest of levels, what are you seeing right now out of Xavier McKinney?
Well, first of all, I just want to do this, give this bottle
Oh,
Hall of Fame Elite Vodka to the Giants for, I could throw Saquon Barkley in there too, but we're going to just stay with X for a minute. Thank you for making him available. Thank you for not signing him to a long-term deal. Thank you for giving us a safety in his prime. But we're beyond ecstatic because X is different. He's a 24, 25-year-old, but he's a grown man inside a young man's body. He's a leader, and it's what we needed. We haven't had a safety like this since Nick Collins, really. I know me and Charles Woodson played safety at a high level, but this is different. He affects so much. And really, not a lot of people in Green Bay knew about him when Brian Gutekunst brought him in and made him the highest paid safety. Because it was the Mika Fitzpatricks of the world, the Buda Bakers. People were like, these are the best safety. I said, wait, hold it. It's another guy that y'all missing, and we got it. So, and let's be honest, if it wasn't for him, the Packers are probably 1-4.
Wow.
I mean, last week, it was interception, fumble recovery. He probably could have had another one, but we play on defense for a reason. We're going to give him a pass. But what he's meant to this organization is somebody that's reliable. But in terms of your question, Matt, here's where I put it. Darren Sharper that played with me, I'm just talking about purely in a Packer uniform, had the best range I've ever seen. Can, in the middle of the field, sprint over and intercept it or cause a fumble. Darren Sharper was amazing. Eugene Robinson had the best instincts I've ever seen. Formation, what they do from this formation, tendencies. Eugene Robinson, to me, is the smartest safety to ever play the game. X is both of those guys.
Wow.
High praise.
Wolverine, you shoot him up, he come back to life.
Yeah.
That's how X is. They get a long pass and everybody's down. He can get a pick, everybody's up.
Wow.
Somebody will miss a tackle. He'll go over and make the tackle the next time, and it just lifts everybody. And somebody was saying he's the defensive MVP. I got offended. Okay. He's the MVP.
All right.
Because who's to say in 5 games that he won't get one every game? They got to throw the ball.
17 interceptions. He's in that conversation. If he gets 17 picks and the Packers make a Super Bowl run, yes, he's in that conversation.
I will pound the table for MVP. Yes.
I want people to say it on your show, Matt. We had this discussion because I don't know when the last time a defensive guy was even considered. I know one of my favorites, Reggie White. That's my guy. So I love it, man. You gotta get me that picture.
You get me some vodka. Get me some vodka. We can talk.
Man, I'd probably give you more than that to get that Reggie White.
brokering deals on the show.
I know, right? Hey,
LeRoy,
man, we love everybody on this show.
absolutely. Are you surprised at all at how well this defense is playing, how quickly things have turned around under Jeff Hafley? Because there was a lot of talk down the stretch last year that was the weak point, that's what would keep them out of the playoffs. Now they wound up, of course, making a nice little run there and beating the Cowboys in the wild card round, but they're averaging just under 3 turnovers per game, holding opponents to just around 20 points per game. And Sunday, it was those 2 turnovers you mentioned by Xavier McKinney that turned things around. What's your big picture view of this defense, this scheme, and how good can they be if they keep up this level of play?
The bend don't break defense, to me, gets a negative overtone or undertone.
Right.
Or on offense, conservative game managers is negative, but those are positives. This defense, they're gonna give up a first down here, there, some yardage, but if they keep throwing the ball or keep running, odds are they're gonna get turnovers. And remember, Hafley, the people were like, they're the youngest team in the league. Okay, youngest team in the league. Matter of fact, the Rams are number 2 by a few months. You need a guy who's young enough, straight from college, to talk to really college players 1 or 2 years removed. Yeah, they got some grown men sprinkled in there, but it's just the messaging, effort, and be on time. We're gonna have a great defense. And that's what we go by. Points scored and takeaways. An interception is a takeaway. A tip is a giveaway. Hafley has just convinced everybody of their roles. Remember, they went from a 3-4 to a 4-3.
Right.
But some guys who normally stand up, we need you to put your hand in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, I get it. When they played Philly, they weren't getting any just rush on Jalen Hurts. They wanted to kind of keep him in the pockets instead of running all over the place. Each week is going to be different. Because this week, Kyler Murray, he had a 50-yard touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to get a guy like Adrian Cooper, number 56, you're the spy. And when he comes up, go get him. I just love that everybody have these the game plan. Everybody gets a game plan, but only a few guys get a supplement. That means it's something just for you.
Okay.
And that's why I like Adrian Cooper, Bullock, because we had some injuries in the secondary. We had to move Keon Nixon to corner. Bullock, a safety, a rookie, had to put him in the slot.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's prepared. And I'm just excited for what this defense could be, because they're not even through half a season yet. Imagine how good they're going to be in November and December.
Now that you've seen Jordan Love win the game in comeback fashion, a week after a furious comeback came up just short, what's the next step in his development as a quarterback? Because you've obviously played against some great quarterbacks or close to the situation there in Green Bay. What are your thoughts on Jordan Love, where he is now, and what's the next step for him as he climbs the rankings as one of the best young quarterbacks in the league?
Here's why I love, no pun intended, why I love Jordan Love. He's the same guy. Go all the way back when they were 2-5,
Mm-hmm.
3-6. Go look at all of his press conferences. Same guy.
Mm-hmm.
When he throws a bad interception last week, he's the first one to say, it's on me. You don't hear quarterbacks saying that. It's always somebody else's fault, or the guy didn't protect. Joe Love said, no, that's on me. Even the long pass to Jaden Reed, shouldn't have thrown it.
Nice.
God is good. Jaden Reed catches it. I should have thrown that pass. Sometimes, as quarterbacks, as we all do, we try to do it all ourselves. But the reason why we love the way he's trending, he's working with all young receivers. They can grow. And now Tucker Kraft at tight end is another weapon. And I like it when sometimes it's on him. He'll go up to the line, do a quick count. They don't jump. Do a quick count again. He'll set the protection, give them the play, one more hard count. They don't jump. We move. We get a big play like last year against Dallas. People say, how in the hell did y'all have Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and now Jordan Love? And I'm just so tickled to death that we have a quarterback that we can grow. Now the interceptions, because he had like 8, I think last year, got 5 already, or something like that. It don't bother him. It don't okay, let's make the corrections and let's keep it. That's a shout out to his parents, his mom, rest in peace to his dad, because every quarterback has to be measured and get an offense that he loves to work with. It's gonna be some new things because some of the run plays with Josh Jacobs, they ran with Malik. They didn't run with Jordan for whatever reason. Now they're just trying to incorporate everything. So now, after the knee injury, after 2 weeks, you saw him run to pick up a first down. He'll be a little bit more mobile. They'll screen people. So I'm excited for the future for number 10.
That's what I was going to ask you. As a defensive player, when you look at that offense, so many different playmakers, so many different concepts. How hard is that to defend against?
Great question. Great question. I'm gonna tell you, I tell people this all the time, but I mean it in a positive way. Anytime you move somebody against the defense, it's a chance somebody's wide the hell open. Defenses, because we always want to, just we all ready to go. It's like the movie Up. Like the dogs are all together, squirrel, and they put the squirrel. It's like, no, stay focused. We're trying to catch the balloon in the house, but they keep thinking about chasing a squirrel. If you don't move, you're taking a chance of defenses getting after you.
Right.
But Matt moves more guys than anybody in the league. And I'm telling you, I played defense my whole life. It frustrated me when Steve Young would send Jerry Rice in motion, because now I got to go from strong to weak.
Okay.
But guess who may not hear the call? The other side. Now Jerry Rice is wide open. Oh, we didn't get the call. We didn't hear you. So they move somebody. But if he stays where he is, I don't need to make a call. I just set the strength and we're going to dominate you. But if you move over and then come back,
right,
somebody of the 10 people may not get the call. You don't need but one that didn't hear it. Touchdown or a big run. So, and I think that was something that Aaron Rodgers openly said, I don't like a lot of this motion stuff. Right. He was off base.
Because he wants to make that decision on his own at the line with the guys where they are.
Exactly.
Right. Which is what, and Brady liked that too, but Brady was Brady and Rodgers was Rodgers.
Yes.
For a younger guy, it's got to be different, right?
Yes, because Brock Purdy, to me, over the last 3 years, best quarterback in the league. From where he came from, Mr. Irrelevant to very relevant. He's going to be the highest paid quarterback. This guy, he didn't go in there and say, wait, Kyle, I don't like that. I don't want to do that. But no, Brock Purdy's documentary would be the most watched documentary in the history of the NFL.
Okay.
Because he came there, he's not 6'5", he's not like running a 4.3. All he was a guy that could listen. That offense, the one that the Rams run, who won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
San Francisco won, who've been in a couple Super Bowls. The Packers, who Matt won more games than anybody the first 3 or 4 years. And all that moving and stuff with Debo and Jalen Reed, it's confusing to defenses. And offenses that don't move, it's just taking away a weapon. The more movement, the better. Defenses hate it.
For sure. And obviously, I think I know your answer to this next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. The NFC North has suddenly become maybe the most competitive division in all of football. You have one of the few undefeated teams in the league in the Minnesota Vikings, Sam Darnold in the middle of this renaissance. You have the Detroit Lions, who continue to build this reputation as a steamrolling wrecking ball on both sides. And you have the Packers with a defense that's getting better every week. And as you've talked about, all kinds of young weapons around one of the best young quarterbacks in football. Who's the best team in that division right now? Who's your favorite to win it and go on to the playoffs?
It's a great question, man. This one of the best podcasts I've ever been on. These are good questions.
We're going to cut that up into a promo.
You have to, especially when it comes from a Hall of Famer who's from the North.
Absolutely.
You have to say the Vikings, because the Vikings beat San Francisco, playoff team. They beat the Texans, playoff team. They beat the Packers, playoff team. And on the road, Giants. And last week, they beat the Jets. I mean, with a couple of gifts from Aaron Rodgers, but win is win, right? When you're 5-0, you're going to be in the playoffs. So they're the class of the North now. And I would say the runner-up MVP right now behind Xavier is Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's on his fourth team. He's on a one-year deal, and he's outplayed everybody. You got to give people like that a respect. You really do. You respect your opponent. That's how you can beat them. Brian Flores should be a head coach, ASA yesterday. Everybody knows he's going to blitz. Everybody. It's no secret. He'll tell you. Brian Flores will send you his playbook. I don't care. You can't beat my system. And no one's been able to figure it out. Because the young man, he went to Wisconsin, his name escapes me. The pick six.
Andrew Van Ginkel.
Thank you. I can't say it or spell it, so thank you, man. They say always have a smart friend around you, so thank you. Aaron has seen that blitz a ton of times, more than you know. But the disguise of what I see and what I believe is brilliant. Because I'm telling you, in practice, they probably told Aaron, he's not going to be there. So you can get it there. Or, you should check to can't, go to the next play. Nope, I'm doing it, pick six and gone. So Flores, to me, he'll get a head coaching job. I mean, and I think, because I know there's some bad stuff that Tua said about him, and people want to win. Right. So if I'm an owner, he's my first call to some of these organizations. But real quick, after that, I think it's all together, because the Chicago Bears playing pretty good with Williams. I mean, as long as they don't get his attempts up to 30 and 40 and put it all on him, throw to DJ Moore. Swift is running the ball great, and they're all about defense and special teams. And the Packers always feel like you're going to be there because Jordan Love, is, to me, arguably the best quarterback in the division. And anytime Jared Goff, he went to a Super Bowl, okay? And that kind of experience, and they went and got Gibbs, a gadget running back, that nobody said, why are they drafting this guy? Him and Montgomery, a two-headed monster. It's the best. It used to be for years, we were told the East was the toughest division, because it was, because you had the Giants, the Eagles, the Cowboys, and Commanders, which I'm so glad Chicago did not draft Daniels. Oh, thank you, God. God is good. Because I saw him play LSU against Florida State.
Oh, gosh.
Sideline in Orlando. I say, there's the number one pick. This kid is amazing. Now, Caleb is amazing too.
Yeah.
But it's like, remember Bryce Young and CJ?
Yes.
They want to take the guy with all the gaudy numbers or the bigger, taller guy. Everybody's different. Caleb's going to be a great player, but Jalen Daniels is something special. So I think the North is the toughest one, but right now it's the Minnesota Vikings.
And that's where I was going to go. This is the last one from me. I'd love to get your perspective as a defensive player, one of the greatest safeties ever play the game, gold jacket player, Hall of Famer, all those things. When you watch Jaden Daniels, when you watch Caleb Williams, what about their skill set impresses you the most, especially a guy like Jaden Daniels, who he's legitimately playing himself into that MVP conversation with what he's doing in Washington right now?
Leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership. First with Caleb, I love that he's a mama's boy like me. So that means battle tested, very smart. He's like one of these prodigy kids that like you can give him stuff and he can put together the puzzle in like 3 seconds. And he wants he's a problem solver. He wants to fix everything. And just give me all the playbook now. And he learned it. And he has weapons, but his downfall could be in the clock in his head. I can do it all by myself. That'll calm down. Because we all think that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and playing on the West Coast and going to Chicago, one of the most storied franchises, who just had Justin Fields a couple of years ago, he can go there and be a hero. Because they have not beaten the Packers since I was in like 8th grade, it seems like. If he can just split and put them in the future in the conversation, getting into the playoffs, oh, he'll be a national treasure. But Daniels has got a new coach, and they went out and got him the perfect offensive coordinator to really just, what are you good at? I can run and I can throw, and I can run any offense you want. You want a pro style, I can do it. Ride in the side, RPOs, I can do anything you want. If you ever talk to him, you don't want to leave the room. These are the guys that work. Sometimes guys get a bad label on them in their interviews because they seem a little bit arrogant, like they know everything. And then when the coach get into teaching it to them, they're making faces. They're like, maybe we should do it like this. Coaches don't want to hear that. You got to be a good listener. That's why teachers are heroes to me. Without my teachers, there is no LeRoy Butler. I didn't go into my algebra class and I'm going to teach it. I wanted them to learn. If you could teach me that I add 2 letters, it equals a number, and then its shapes of a ladder equals 0, and I can write a paragraph about it, you're brilliant. Okay? But these 2 guys will be on the fast track, as is CJ Stroud, who went straight to the playoffs. And Bryce Young, he'll get his turn. Because when he came in for Andy Dalton, he looked pretty good because it's starting to slow down. These are some of the best quarterbacks we've seen in a long time, and the future's bright for both of these young men.
Well, I only have one more question. Where can I get some Leap vodka?
Hey, man, go to leapspirits.com.
Oh, is that easy?
Leapspirits.com and show you where it is, where you can get it.
Beautiful.
And we'll take good care of you.
Excellent.
I think we're both going to jump on and order some Leap vodka by the end of this.
Yes.
We appreciate the time, LeRoy, and the insight. This has been tremendous. And of course, if you're on Threads, give LeRoy a follow at Leap3636. LeRoy, appreciate the time. Look forward to talking further up the road, my friend. This was tremendous insight, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I got to say one more thing. I know y'all Eagles fans. Y'all did my friend Doug Peterson wrong, man. I don't appreciate that.
Doug's got to coach himself out of a hole.
There's a statue outside the stadium for him. He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Okay. Well, they got to get AJ Brown back. He's on my fantasy team too, man. They got to fix that.
Just like you, he has a statue outside the stadium. So
that's all.
Memories all around.
Yeah. I got AJ Brown.
Okay.
DeAndre, the receiver.
Devonta Smith.
Smitty. Devonta
yeah.
Smith.
Yeah, he's on injury reserve, and I got Dallas Goddard, and they on bye week. Hey man, I need them guys back.
I think you're getting some good news this week. I think that
I
both
need all
receivers
three
will
of
be
those
back.
guys back. They're killing me. They're killing me. But thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Great stuff from LeRoy Butler there, Mike.
Absolutely. By the way, do you actually remember GI Joes with Kung Fu grip?
I remember the GI Joes. I don't remember the Kung Fu grip specifically.
With your hand, show me how big a GI Joe is in your mind.
They were the little guys.
Ah! No. GI Joes are supposed to be about this big.
Really?
They're fully articulated features, and they're supposed to have like special superpowers. Some of them had what you called a Kung Fu grip, which was a spongy rubber finger like this. So you could take one GI Joe and the other GI Joe go like this. And I think if you pushed a lever on the back of the shoulder, one would flip the other one.
So like a Rock'em Sock'em Robot on steroids.
Like a Rock'em Sock'em Robot. You could flip one over the other, over their back, etc. Another one had a telescopic thing in their eye. You could look in their eye, and they had like the Bionic Man eyes. So the GI Joes were amazing. Now it's weird they didn't have any bad guys. All you could get were GI Joes, so you were like you fought Ken.
Got it.
Right. But whereas your GI Joes probably had Cobra villains all over Lord's creation, Snake Eyes, and people like
that. Yeah, what I was imagining in my mind were the little miniature soldiers that came in the big bucket. You had
oh my gosh, those guys.
Buckets full of them. Remember those?
I do remember those, but you could have you could put an entire army of those suckers.
Yes.
There. Yeah, they're in Toy Story.
Exactly.
Arlie Emery is actually their sergeant, Private Pile. He's actually out there in Toy Story screaming his disgusting curse word. He's not cursing, obviously, but literally the guy from Full Metal Jacket is running the little toys in Toy Story. Yes.
That's awesome. I never made that connection. So see, you learn something every day talking to you. If I'm reading the column or having you on the pod, I learned something new. Pop culture, football, the Green Army men. That's why you should subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack.
It's nothing but obscure references from the 70s, folks. Make sure you subscribe.
But I will say, I'm going to call you out here. You've been a little too bearish on Jaden Daniels. You were too bearish on him going into last week. I've listened to the podcast 3 or 4 times because it pops up in my feed.
Yeah.
I think that he belongs in that MVP conversation, especially if the Commanders keep this up.
MVP conversation. You know what? He's playing phenomenal football. I hate the term MVP conversation.
You do. I know this.
I hate the term MVP conversation, but yeah. No, the skepticism each week he gets rid of any reason for skepticism.
First quarterback ever now with 1,000 passing yards and over 250 rushing yards through his first 5 games. They've instantly gone in Washington from a rebuilding franchise to instant legitimate contender and threat in the NFC. Should they be buyers?
Please don't tell me that you want them to get Devontae Adams too.
No.
Okay. they could be buyers. I don't know how you're a buyer when you already brought all the free agents in March and you've already got all the stereotypical old guy that you bring in to help you. Most of them are already there. I don't know. Maybe you could get Chase Young back. There's a thing you could do somewhere along the way. But yeah, they're moving forward. They check every single box in terms of you have accomplished what you need to do October 6th, and they look like a playoff team.
And in my column on Monday morning, I basically played real or mirage with the big 5 storylines across the early window of the games, including the rookie quarterbacks. And I reached out to sources. Hey, real or mirage, fact or fiction? NFC personnel executive on Jaden Daniels, quote, he's the real deal. More than anything else, he's smart, looks to throw, but knows when to run, and he's well coached. But I think to me, what stands out the most is it's that poise in the pocket, the decision-making. You can talk about the deep ball accuracy and all those things and the mobility, but it's what he does between the ears, from between the snap to the whistle, that's impressed me the most from a processing and decision-making standpoint.
I think that LeRoy Butler said something similar about that. When you talk about game manager, and you and I are media savvy, so we use game manager as an insult or whatever, and it's a positive because you're seeing check down ability, you're seeing scramble but get out of bounds ability, scramble but again, he doesn't really slide necessarily. He's figuring that out. He sacrifices himself. All these things early in that game was not going Commander's way early in that game, but he was continually making the right decisions against a tough defense and put them in a position that once the Browns offense started doing what it did, the Commanders could take control of that. And that is good complementary football and good game management.
a great game management, but also the ability to turn a game on a single play. That 66-yard bomb down the field to Terry McLaurin, that's when the game started to tip in their favor a little bit.
Right.
So you look at what he's doing, consistently improving, but also showing that he can be a game changer. And it was a little bit delayed seeing Caleb Williams make a lot of those strides in Chicago, but he's starting to. He's starting to build a lot of confidence with DJ Moore, showing balance, spreading the ball around to all of his different weapons. DeAndre Swift had his coming out party in Chicago. And, you know, you look at what happened on Sunday, his second 300+ yard passing performance over the last 3 weeks, second consecutive game without throwing an interception, and his fourth game in a row. I don't know if he thinks that he's the S&P 500 setting new records every other day, but it was his second game in a row with a higher passer rating, finishing with 126.2. I know it was an inter-squad scrimmage. I know that he was playing the Coastal Carolina, as you've deemed the Carolina Panthers, but it was a get-right game, and they got right.
They did get right. Last week, after we recorded last week, I actually got to like really watch the Caleb Williams tape, and even the announcer had the same reaction I did on this play. It was a second and short. He drops back the pass. He's got a little bit of protection for once. Nothing's available deep. He dumps the ball into the flat to maybe Roschon Johnson, and Johnson runs for like 8 yards. And even the announcer's like, oh, yeah, good. Because that's, again, that game management element of things. It was hero ball or nothing for Cal the first couple weeks. A lot of times at USC, it was kind of like that, too. Yep. And now it's like, oh, here we go. I've now figured out the idea that I can get 6-7 yard completions in a different way if I manage this game a little better. And that, when it complements the big play capabilities, where you get that franchise quarterback. And we talk about the inter-squad scrimmage. We talk about Coastal Carolina. After 5 weeks for both of those guys, even Bo Nix, you can throw him into it. We're starting to get at least enough passes to really evaluate. When we were making our decisions off of 22 passes in week 1 and then 22 more in week 2, plus the sacks, plus their inexperience, plus who were they playing week to week, you don't get that. Now when you get 125, 150 total passes, you can say, oh, now we get a real strength of Caleb Williams' strengths and weaknesses. We've seen him against a bad team, a good team, when he's controlling a lead, when he's trailing. We're seeing more of that from Daniels, although he's having more success. We're seeing a little bit from Nix, but, you know, that's weird. And you're getting a sense of who these guys really are, and it's no longer a hot take. It's more of an evaluation.
It's an evaluation, and I think the biggest key to what you just described was the inexperience early on, because the timing is suddenly starting to get a little bit better with Caleb Williams. Bo Nix looks comfortable in that offense, and they've taken the training wheels off and let him throw vertically a little bit more than they did the first couple weeks of his career. And Jaden Daniels just gets better every single week. So before I give you the quote from an NFL offensive coordinator on Caleb Williams, I'll put it to you. Caleb Williams, right now, you're projecting forward, real or mirage based on what we've seen?
Real. I mean, he's a real franchise quarterback. I'd like to say, like, what does that mean? A playoff berth for the Bears? I don't think so. But like, oh, the Bears go 8, 9, 7, and 10, and like they're in good position for the future. Absolutely.
Yeah, you can build around them. The trajectory goes up and to the right. NFL offensive coordinator, quote, he's got to be real. The more he plays, the better he's going to get. He has all the tools. It's just a matter of him believing what he's seeing develop in front of him and letting it rip. And watching that game a little bit on Sunday, that was my takeaway. This letting it develop and just letting it rip, not forcing things, and certainly getting on the same page from a timing perspective with guys like Odunze, like DJ Moore, and now like Keenan Allen.
The pump that we saw earlier. I didn't really watch this week's game against the Panthers. I saw the previous weeks. Much less pump and wake. More pump, look away. Throw it away. Run, scramble, get that ball to the running back for 4 yards, whatever. But not, I'm going to force this ball and I'm looking at one guy while the safeties are converging. Quickly,
Mike, our circlet games for this week. Who you got?
Did I pick Eagles Browns?
You sure did.
I did. I picked Eagles Browns. There are better games out there, but look at the Eagles situation right now. Browns are reeling. I don't want to get into the Browns thing at all right now. I am writing about them this week, so you'll be able to check that out. But this should be the Eagles get right game. This is a vulnerable opponent. They're getting healthy players back. Eagles get a win. They're 3-2. They're in the same boat as teams like the Cowboys, better boat than the Niners. The Eagles lose. They lose to a team that the Cowboys and Commanders beat.
Nick Sirianni gone if they lose?
I don't know. I'm not going to do that right now. Look, I'm sitting there looking at my Threads feed, and people want Kyle Shanahan fired. there are Bills fans who want Sean McDermott fired. I'm not going to do the fired thing right now. I have feelings about Sirianni, but when we're talking about like Sean McDermott getting fired, we're in a weird headspace here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, there's collective trauma. My circlet game, Cowboys-Lions. We know what the Lions are. The Lions are for real. They're a wrecking ball. I still think they're the favorite to win the NFC North, even though the Vikings continue to find new ways to win, even doing so with Sam Darnold coming back to earth a little bit. They still find ways to manufacture wins.
Yeah.
Detroit is a well-tuned machine on both sides of the ball with an identity. I want to see, will the real Dallas Cowboys please stand up?
Yeah.
I know they're banged up. I know that they have major injuries to key players on defense, but is it the team that struggled out of the chute early, or is it the team that overcame adversity in Pittsburgh to win that football game, a game they really had no business winning because their quarterback played them out of the game for 55 minutes and then put together a game-winning comeback drive to roll out of Pittsburgh with the win. So will the real Dallas Cowboys please stand up? And it's also the offensive lineman checking tackle eligible revenge game for the Detroit Lions in Dallas, in Arlington. So I'm circling that game and I can't wait.
Oh gosh, you talk about collective trauma. Now that game came flooding back into my memory there. But that's the game where I look at, I got to see the injury reports and thorough, but like that's the Lions should statement win this. Because again, that defensive line for the Cowboys is really messed up right now. They're short receivers. They don't have a running game at all to speak of. And this is a game the Lions should be able to dominate in, and it would be telling. And Vikings fans will be watching carefully. If the Lions don't dominate in that game, why are we talking about the Lions as potentially the top team in this division?
Mike, what's coming up on the Two Deep Zone? Make sure you subscribe to Mike Tanier's Two Deep Zone on Substack. What do you got coming down the pipeline?
I've got a tank watch on the Browns that is in the editing queue. And
Nice.
I'm like you, I'm racking my brain about whether I'm going to write something about Aaron Rodgers or not.
Yeah, I have some stuff coming up out of the LeRoy Butler conversation. Thanks to LeRoy Butler for joining the show. A lot of fun, great conversation, great insight there. And of course, Friday, the weekly mailbag. Send your questions in on Threads at Matt Lombardo NFL in the Substack chat. I'll reach out to my sources around the league, get their insight, put together some answers for you. That comes out every Friday, the Football Friday mailbag. Look forward to sending that out as well. Make sure you follow Mike on Threads at Mike Tanier. You can follow me on Threads at Matt Lombardo NFL. Mike, any parting shots?
That's it. Go look up Leap Vodka.
Yes.
And see if it can get delivered to Pennsylvania. I don't know if it can get delivered to New Jersey. And then go look up the Kung Fu Grip on the G.I. Joe and look at just what an amazing, amazing action figure that was.
That's my homework assignment for this week. Thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks to LeRoy Butler for checking in. We'll talk to everybody next week and enjoy the games this weekend.